Hey everybody, it's VT Matty. The Skypad 4.0 has finally arrived. It's been about 4 weeks since I first started testing it out. Today we're just going to do a fairly short overview of the mousepad, what it feels like to aim in all of the categories with it, and what I like and don't like. The first point that I need to emphasize when playing all of the aiming categories is the smoothness. I don't remember entirely what my experience was like on the Skypad 3.0, but I don't think it was as smooth as the 4.0. A lot of people tend to assume that extremely good smoothness is inherent to glass mousepads, but it isn't always the case. Mousepads like the Artisan Shinkai have this kind of smoothness and satisfying feel to glide on as well. I think that this feeling on the Skypad 4.0 makes it a lot more comfortable to aim on, particularly for tracking focused games like the Finals, Quake, Apex, or Overwatch. So definitely the glide feel and consistency is a major upgrade. I feel way more in control of my motions compared to the 3.0, despite it still being one of the fastest pads I've tried. This of course brings us to the speed. As expected, the Skypad 4.0 has very low static and dynamic friction. Specifically, the exceptionally low static friction implies that the player needs to have a level of mouse control where they are able to stop their own motions without relying on the mousepad friction to do it for them. This also means higher attention may be required to control micromotions in clicking situations. I'd say the speed is the same as the 3.0, but it is still worth the upgrade because of the aforementioned smoothness difference and glide consistency. With these initial thoughts out of the way, let's describe how the Skypad 4.0 performs in each of the aiming categories. In static clicking, I find that my flicks become a lot more staggered. The extremely low dynamic friction causes small micromotions to be way more pronounced when I'm taking wide flicks, so my initial flicks aren't as clean as I would want them to be. This also leads to messier microcorrections. I think that cluster farming is a little bit easier on the Skypad, especially if I tense more for control, and this is mostly because the low static friction allows me to make smaller movements very easily. Overall, I doubt that I would ever use a Skypad or any other speed pad for that matter to push static scores. It's just not a category optimized by it. I wouldn't recommend it unless you are a cartoon, and you are literally the best player in existence. In dynamic clicking, it feels pretty much the same way. I need more tension to control the pace at which I want to aim. Micros are easier to pull off overall, but controlling the more drastic movements becomes pretty tough. Precise tracking, I think, is where this pad shines the most. A lot of my precise scores on the 4.0 almost match my personal records set on other pads like the Raiden and the Shinkai. With some decent grinding, I could definitely surpass those scores on the 4.0, which is something that I could not quite say about the 3.0 due to the glide being less smooth and consistent. The added control that I mentioned earlier allows me to tense when needed and not feel wobbly or staggered in my overall motion. Reactive tracking receives all of the same benefits. Pivots might take a while to get used to because of the speed, but once you do get used to it, you can just farm scores with the right tension balance. Lastly, I will talk about both speed and evasive TS at the same time. I think that the Skypad 4.0 gives very significant benefits in this category, but only if you have really good flicking technique already. More specifically, if you are already proficient at stopping your flicks by yourself without relying on the pad, then the 4.0 will do wonders for you in switching. Switching is all about landing fast flicks directly without needing to micro. The 4.0 allows for intense flicking speed without exerting a lot of force. Wide motions that were previously more difficult to consistently perform on slower mousepads will feel very free on the 4.0. Tension management might become a concern for players who are not yet comfortable with controlling their own flicks at such high speeds. My personal opinion on this pad is that it's definitely a win for switching scenarios, but I'm aware that the experience might be mixed for others. Overall, I think that the Skypad 4.0 is certainly an upgrade from the 3.0. I'm glad I got to try it out, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. It presents a nice challenge of mouse control for clicking scenarios and opens up a lot of opportunities for applying smooth aiming and precision in tracking situations. With that said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video or aim VOD. As always, happy dot clicking.